that you really can't say anything that's not typical and documented. So if it's not typical for someone like, hey, I made $1,000 last week, you can too, that could be an illegal claim because you can't guarantee the person's gonna make 1,000. They may not work as hard as you do. They may not have the same luck or the same background that you have. And that's where the kind of the false information comes in.
Well, hello there and welcome to the Direct Selling Accelerator podcast. I'm your host, Sam Hind, and if you have got a business in the direct selling industry that you're hoping to grow, you want to learn new strategies and skills to attract new leads from your dream customer base, then you're in the right place. Today, we're going to be talking about a topic that sadly has become one of the most undesirable topics of the industry, compliance. In my travels, I meet so many incredible people in this industry, people who want to see direct sellers thrive just like me. And this guest that I'm bringing in to speak to you today is another very special person who brings an incredibly special skill set to the table. Today, we welcome Jonathan Gilliam, the founder and CEO of Momentum Factor, the leading AI-powered digital risk management firm specializing in compliance monitoring and education, brand protection, and global online reputation management, as well as the developers of FieldWatch compliance management platform. If you've ever come across FieldWatch, you know that this is all about how to help people grow their business in a safe and compliant way while also protecting the brand that we're representing. Jonathan has been honoured for his work with countless awards from the DSA Partnership Award, the 2018 Fast 50, and even as one of the best places to work by the Austin Business Journal. To add to this, he is also a published author, something I've got to say I was honestly a little bit jealous of. I love the fact that he has done so many amazing things in his incredible career. And as a regular speaker and presenter at industry conferences, including the DSA, he is also the founder of the Direct Selling Leadership and Compliance Summit, a special event that will be happening again in Utah in February next year. Jonathan and I have crossed paths multiple times throughout our work that we've done in the industry, and we've connected over a mutual love: compliance. Now, this is something that most people avoid at all costs. They don't want to talk about it, and when they do, it's a really scary subject. So Jonathan and I took on the task today, a very daunting one, to try and make this a fun conversation, to try and make this something that's interesting, entertaining, and most importantly, something that we can all apply easily to our business. So if you want to know a little bit more about what is compliance, how do you apply it to your business, and most importantly, why does it matter so much? Well, tune on in, listen in, grab yourself a pen and paper because Jonathan's going to share a few examples and strategies that you can implement in your business to help you protect not just your business, but your brand and most importantly, the industry as a whole. Let's work together to grow this incredible industry, to have a big impact and help change more lives every single day. Enjoy the episode. Well, welcome back into the Direct Selling Accelerator podcast. I am obviously joined by an amazing guest here. Welcome on in, Jonathan. It is so great to have you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it, Sam.
Awesome. I'm super excited about our chat today. We're going to be taking on the very daunting task of making something that people hate talking about fun again. We're going to make compliance cool today. Are you up for the challenge?
I'm down. Let's do it.
So, Jonathan Gilliam, you are the CEO and founder of Momentum Factor. Do you want to share with us a little bit about actually, before we get into your journey, I want to know a fun fact about you. Throw a fun fact our way.
A fun fact. Well, in the last year and a half, I've started DJing.
Really?
And yeah, in fact, it's right here. That's my deck.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
That's where the magic happens. And it's been fun. I'm playing real gigs, and I played our big event that you're familiar with, the DSLC, last year, and I'm going to play it again when you're in town in Salt Lake City in February. So I'll be
Right.
playing that piece. So I have a captive audience, it's
So we're
our
going to
event. So I'm going to get on stage and play.
So you get my dancing shoes on. So the question
For
is there
sure.
like a vision for this DJing skill? Is the reason you're going to be playing this at the event because you're just wanting to get some DJing gigs at conferences? Is that your next step?
I'd prefer clubs, but if I have to take the occasional conference, that's great.
Do you know, it's funny. The first DSA conference I came to in the US was down in Boca Raton.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a DJ there.
Yeah.
You remember, were you at that event?
Yeah. They
And I was
usually
like,
have them
what?
they have them actually throughout the whole conference. They'll have them like doing the music on stage. It kind of gives it a little
Yeah.
life.
I was like, this
Um,
is just, I remember sending a photo to the DSA board in Australia going, you guys need to up your game because the Americans have got this going.
I'll
I love it.
volunteer. I'll come down to the Australian DSA
I'll let them
conference.
know. It's about to get a lot more fun. I love that.
Oh yeah.
And what are your kids think? Because you've got teenage kids, right?
Uh-huh.
What do
Yeah.
they think about dad being a DJ?
Well, it's funny because I had a smaller DJ board than this one, and I had it for about 6 months. And I outgrew it, and I'm like, okay, my daughter's a talented singer, and she's in bands and stuff. So I gave it to
Yeah.
her, and
Yeah.
within 6 months, she's playing all over town. She's amazing because she has like musical ability, unlike me. I just know good music, I think, but but she's actually talented. So she was able to really. I mean, she's playing, I think, this weekend in a big club here in town. So it's just crazy.
Wow. So this is
Yeah,
actually a really cool way to connect with your kids. So
it
what
really
you're
is.
saying is if I want to have a better relationship with my teens, I need to get into DJing or something cool, right?
Something like that. Something
Okay.
that gets you both working on the same thing, I think is
I
great.
love it. Well, that's
Yeah.
great advice. Well, let's jump into the other side of who you are, which is the I guess the social media direct selling side, compliance. Let's talk a little bit about your career because you've had quite an impressive career around in the direct selling company. Can you tell us a bit about how you got into the direct selling industry and where you are today, what you're doing today, and we'll get to the compliance stuff.
Sure. So I've always kind of surrounded myself in the space of technology and marketing and kind of where those converge. I was Deloitte consulting for quite a while, and I was working in the anti-fraud group, so kind of security, technology, marketing space. And I happened upon a company and became the CMO and co-founder of it back in 2009. And that's where I kind of learned about the business. It took a while, as we all know, in this space. It's just different.
Mm-hmm.
And loved it. Fell in love with the industry and the people and just the excitement of it. Coming from a big consultancy, it was a drastic change. And we were the first to put up a Facebook page in the industry for a startup. And no one was really using Facebook to market, but it was taking off. And it was very, very effective for us. And I thought, wow, this is great. And then when I left that firm, I started my own consulting firm to help other direct selling companies from the company perspective build their social media presence. And so we built that over several years. And then at some point, everyone knows how to do it, right? So the company would hire other people or hire internal people or put their assistants on doing Twitter and such. And so, but at the same time, we saw a lot of issues coming up from the field. People making claims they shouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what kept me up at night when I was a CMO at my company, because we had a nutraceutical beverage, and it was like, I was fine with the marketing, but it was the claims that could really get us in trouble. So we pivoted in 2014 and built the FieldWatch platform to help companies manage the social media posts of their field. And it's been growing ever since.
So, it's really interesting because I feel like compliance is the one thing that everyone needs to know about, no one wants to know about. And you've gone, hey, I'm going to base my entire career around this really uncool topic, right?
That's not my first time.
No. So, look, you and I are both very passionate about this. I think anyone who specializes in social media needs to be. And, it's definitely been a big challenge for us because, of course, being trainers in the social media space, compliance is definitely a really big issue. And I think there's that real difficulty between company and distributors and the communication. And then you and I have also talked about the fact that there is also differences between various different regions too. So if you've got a company that's operating in the US and Canada and Australia and the UK, every location has got different requirements when it comes to compliance. But if someone's listening to this right now and they're a distributor, they've got a business, whether they've been in it just for a short time or for a long time, can you just explain to them what is compliance and why is it important for them to understand as they grow their business?
Basically compliance is the rules. It's the rules from which you can market your business. And it's really aimed at truth in advertising and helping consumers not be swayed by false information. So most governments have a dedicated department or regime of compliance regulators. And so in the US, it's a very active one. I think it's also pretty active in Australia and other places,
It is.
where they're very intent on ensuring that the public is not misled by false advertising, and that's all false advertising of all kinds, not just in direct selling. But direct selling is a because there are so many people in it, and so many of them are not in much of a professional capacity very often. That maybe they don't know the rules, and they're you combine the scale of it with the lack of information, and it just causes problems across the board. And so when a regulator finds out about that, or zeroes in on a company and says, hey, you're not saying the right thing, the company could say, hey, we're not saying it, they're saying it, except the people who represent your product are a part of your company. And if someone represents your product, even if they're not an employee, the company's still on the hook for it.
Yeah. Would it be fair to say, and I'm just going to throw this one out there, and I could get myself in some trouble here, but I just want to put it out there because I think we can have a fairly open and honest conversation on this podcast. I like to think that we can. Do you think that our industry gets picked on a little bit more maybe than other industries when it comes to compliance?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially here in the States, I think there's a lack of excitement in the regulatory space for what we do, for lack of better words. I think that there are a lot of consumer advocate groups online now, or consumer advocate, a lot of hater groups in the space. I'm sure many on the call are familiar with those. And they're growing, and they're not quiet, and very often they're wrong, and they don't get why we're in this business. They don't get the benefits for people. They don't get the good that we do. So absolutely, I think the industry's picked on quite a bit. There have been some bad actors in the past, especially when you push back to the 80s or 90s, where you have people who were just really excited to build a business of any kind, and they were taken advantage of in some cases. But that's mostly gone. You can't really hide with social media anymore. And so the bad companies that just truly are just have ill intent are few and far between. There are really mostly just really good companies trying to market better products through word of mouth and through friends. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, and I guess this brings me to my next question, because one of the missions that we have is changing the way that people perceive this industry, because like you just said so beautifully, it is such a powerful, amazing industry that changes lives, and we're doing good things. So, Greg and I want to change this industry by changing the way people show up online, because if we all do the right thing and we demonstrate the greatness of this industry in a positive way and reduce the amount of people doing the wrong thing. And to be perfectly honest, I mean, my observation, I don't know if it's yours too, I notice vast majority of people that do the wrong thing and put uncompliant content out there actually don't know they're doing it. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah. For the most part, they have good intent. Like, hey, I had this great product experience and I want to share that with my friends. What's wrong with that?
Yeah.
And what's not right about that is that maybe that other person won't have that same experience. So from a technical advertising standards viewpoint, you can't really say I had this experience and you will too.
Yeah.
All you can do is invite them to try it and see how they go. And it might be an income claim, or it might be a product claim that they're making.
Well, that actually brings me to the next question, which is, the compliance can be a really difficult area for distributors to navigate, especially if it's not clear. So what would you say are some of the most common compliance issues that you see, and how can direct sellers best protect themselves and their businesses against these, like with the knowledge? How do we arm them today with some knowledge around, hey, what's okay, what's not okay?
Well, it's interesting you say it's not clear. That's absolutely true. Even in the regulations here in the States, especially, there's no clarity. And I think that allows regulators to work in more of a gray space. And so the clarity could be helpful, or it might be harmful, depending on what the clarity is, right? Depending on how much can we say as a business and keep our businesses going. If you look at what direct sellers are allowed to say, it's really narrow compared to a lot of businesses. I was driving down the street the other day and I saw a billboard for a credit union and said, financial freedom can be yours at a credit union. Now, we all know that's not going to happen if I join that credit union, but it's a big billboard. And here in the States, there's a lot of controversy about that term and using financial freedom.
Yeah.
And so I think that's kind of specific to our space, and it's unfortunate. I think as far as what folks can do, I think you're right. I mean, most people commit violations purely by accident, and I didn't really know that was I wasn't allowed to say that. And it's incumbent on the company to explain, hey, you're not in trouble. We're just going to educate you. We're going to train you on how to do it right because we like you and we want you to be a part of this. And but don't do that again, or just change what you're doing.
What are the risks to a distributor? I mean, we know that for a company, if their distributors are actively being non-compliant, there is a process that happens, there's investigation that happens, and there are massive, massive fines that can be put on a company. But what can happen? Can anything happen to a distributor? Is there any risk to a distributor by being non-compliant in their claims online?
Sure. I mean, traditionally, it's been the risk has been with the violating the company's policies, right? The company can admonish you, or they can pull your distributorship. And a lot of companies may or may not do that, depending on how aggressive they are in enforcing their rules. Typically, especially here with our clients, they're going to enforce the rules. They have to, and they'll say, hey, this thing happened. We hope, we know you're trying to build your business, but, please just follow the rules. And here they are. And by the way, here's a video you can watch to show you how to do it. This explains an income claim. This explains a product claim. And so the company takes it on themselves to help educate the field. I think that's a big part of it. From the distributor side, or from the company side, they can get the regulatory hot water, right? From the distributor side, they can have their businesses at risk.
Yeah.
And also, I think in the States recently, there's some really high profile cases where the top leaders were making claims that they shouldn't have made, and the government went after them too, in addition to the company.
Yeah, I was going to say, I've been hearing more recently of people in the field actually getting investigated and fines being placed, even on some smaller businesses. I know in Australia, one of the challenges was that when a whole lot of, Therapeutic Goods Association or Administration, is it Administration or Association? TGA, made a whole lot of changes to their compliance. I know that as they were fining companies, they were in many cases also fining distributors, and we've seen some people be in some really difficult positions because of that. That being said, I mean, we don't want to freak people out, but that's kind of like the extreme situation here. But what I really want to get people excited about is, you and I have got this mission that we want to help this industry thrive, and we want to do it through educating people on the right ways to show up. What I'm really excited about, particularly with this episode, is I want people to come away from this motivated and excited to also help change the perception by doing their part. And, that is showing up in a way that shines this really great positive and exciting light on this industry, because that's what it is. It's changes lives. It gives people an opportunity to step into a business that otherwise wouldn't have that. And, the other thing that's really interesting is, and this is one of the frustrating things about claims, this industry has some of the best products in the world because of what it does. The research is very different to many of those other companies out there. And the difference with that is it's hard sometimes to communicate just how great these products are, but we've got to find ways to do it. So do you want to just share with us, a couple of maybe examples of things that people shouldn't do versus some ways that they might be able to do it? If we think, for example, and health and wellness industry is going to be the biggest one that's dealing with compliance issues, hands down. But what are some of the most common compliance issues you see in health and wellness, and how can you recommend that people maybe make just a little switch so that they're staying in the right lane, but also they're still growing their business?
Well, that is difficult. I mean, if you take an essential oil.
I gave you a hard task there, didn't I?
I can do it. If you take an essential oils company that is markets, healing very often, oils, I guess, if you will. And it's very difficult for you to say a thieves oil. A lot of people really believe in thieves oil, right? It's like thieves. And but they really can't say publicly or in a sales fashion what that thieves oil does, right? It's very difficult to say this is curative, or it'll cure your eczema, It'll make your pain go away. Those are really keywords that we actually look for in our software. We have hundreds of these keywords that are associated with illegal claims,
Yeah.
both on the income side and on the product side. So it's really difficult to do that. I think what I've seen most, and you being the social media maven that you are, I think you probably know best. Like, here are some ways that you can really market your business. I'm sure this is a topic for your podcast. But I think, when it comes to what you can say and you can't say, you really can't say anything that's not typical and documented. So if it's not typical for someone like, hey, I made $1,000 last week, you can too, that could be an illegal claim because you can't guarantee the person can make 1,000. They may not work as hard as you do. They may not have the same luck or the same background that you have.
Yeah.
And that's where the false information comes in. It may be true to you, but as a standard in a government sense, it's not.
Yeah.
So I think where you can make claims like before and after claims and weight loss, for example. Sometimes they're allowed, sometimes they're not. Kind of depends on what region you're in and maybe who your company is, things like that. There are other kinds of claims that are medical claims that aren't documented. So if you don't have clinical research, by the government's the FDA that regulates that here. Would tell you that you can't say things that the FDA has not put under scrutiny for 10 years and launched as a drug, right?
Yeah. But this does it. Sorry to interrupt. I do want to just point something out here that all of your companies will have approved FDA and TGA claims you can make. And these are researched claims. So if you've got a product like you use Thieves Oil as an example here, Thieves will have some claims that can be made. And so there will definitely be some things you can do, some ticks there. But the best thing you can do is, and your companies should all have a lot of information on this that's hopefully clear and concise. And those health claims, there will be things that are approved to say, but just knowing what those are.
Yeah, and that's it's funny. I was telling you about this this card that I was going to pull up. If you'd like, I can take a look at it and maybe just do this real time.
Yeah, for sure.
We have a couple of like what you can and can't say kind of pieces that we've used in the past. And these are very specific to our clients. So this is, and I won't mention the client's name here, but these are things where it's like, let's take income, for example. At this company in the States, you can't say six-figure income, six-figure with a six income, full-time, replacement, career level, guaranteed, life-changing, top 5% or significant earning potential. Those are around income.
Yep.
So perhaps there are other things like, we bought the largest big screen TV in the store. That might imply extra income, but not something you're attributing directly to your business. Had a wonderful vacation, best vacation ever. And a lot of what I see, and this is what I was going to mention, what you do for a living on the social side, is a lot of it is like, hey, I'm successful as a person, and it's not. I don't tie everything on social to this product or to this opportunity. You can see how I live. You can see my attitude about life. You can see the social interaction I have, the trips that I go on, and never have to make a claim at all. Never even have to talk about your product, because people can see what's he got that I don't have, and what can I learn from this person. And occasionally I might see a post like, hey, I really love this gut beverage. And so I think, and strategically, I know you know a lot more about that than I, but there are many ways that you can really capture people and speak to them authentically, and not even have to go to this kind of selling thing. I think the whole selling and the marketing thing is kind of what's gotten us in a little bit of trouble, because we're not really selling, we're sharing. And that's a strategic mindset on, I'm going to just live my best life, talk about the stuff I love, including this product, including this opportunity, not pushing anyone into it, not hitting on the DMs all day, and just let people come and let them see this great life I'm living. So the fun that I'm having.
Yeah. And I think this is the key point here, right? This gets me really excited, because the key behind this and what you've just demonstrated is the story, the journey. It's not here's the product, here's the business opportunity, here's the ins and outs, this is what you can earn, this is what it can do. This is what I do, this is what I've done, this is what my life is. And we've got to remember, and this is actually a new a topic that we've been teaching on this year is what we call story selling, because what people are forgetting is people are buying from you because they trust you, not because you've got the best product. They can get your product or similar products from loads of different locations. In fact, we've got an overabundance of product opportunities now in front of us every single day. The reason people come to you is because you've built trust with them, and you do that through sharing your experience and your journey. And like you said, this is the holiday I've just been on. I'm so grateful for a business that gives me flexibility and freedom, and the ability to be able to do this and work while I'm on holiday. Those sorts of things are what creates curiosity and has people going, how do I get that? And so, there's a lot to this, and compliance is definitely a lot more convoluted than just, don't make an income claim and be careful about the health claims. It is different for different regions, and it is different for different products. And for some people, they're not likely to come across it as much as others. But I do want to just also ask the question, what do people do if they observe somebody else in the industry? And I want to be careful because I don't want to encourage tattlers, but I do want to protect the industry. So if you see somebody who is actively being non-compliant in what they're doing, what can people do about that? What should they do anything about it? Do they turn a blind eye, or should they be reporting it somewhere or giving the person some support?
I like the last thing you said, giving support, because a lot of people just don't know that they're even making a claim. And it's just may just, again, be their experience or something they don't know really much about. So I think a helpful, supportive comment can be helpful in that situation. We have actually in our software a feature where a company can use a form on our site to automatically tattle. It's called tattletale form, we call it. It's a reporting form. And so some companies choose to have a tattletale form out there just in case, just to catch some of those violations. I think if the overuse of things like that kind of affects the culture of a company, you really don't want to pitch your field against each other. We're all a team. We're all working together. And I think that's where that support piece comes in. Like really, if you need support out there, we're going to help you with this. And I'm going to reach out to you, neighbor, and tell you, hey, you might not want to do that because I know something maybe you don't know about that. Much more helpful, I think, and maybe doesn't lead to, we're all divided enough, right? Right in this world.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I think bringing together and bringing a supportive kind of mentality to this. But yeah, I think it's important to point things out, that especially if it's really egregious. If you're like, hey, you really can't say I'll make $10,000 next week.
Yeah.
That's if a blatant violation like that. And there's some people who that's their choice of business. That's how they want to do it. And that's what our software looks for, is the folks in there who are really egregiously trying to market to people using false information because they think it's going to work for them. So those are the worst cases. And those are the ones that make it to the regulatory complaints. Like those are the ones that make it to the lawsuits. Is you'll see this person 8 years ago said you'll make $10,000 exactly. And it'll be in the actual case that the courts see. So and those are the ones that they use against the companies when they go after them. So you don't want to be the person making those.
No, and that kind of brings up the, you've mentioned that most people would know that they're being non-compliant in their content, and that's okay. So that's where we need to provide a bit of support. What if you know somebody is not open to that feedback because they know that they're being non-compliant and they don't care? Now, where I bring this up is I know that there are places we could report it that actually create a problem for the industry. So what would be your go-to? Would it be go to the company and just share with them kind of quietly behind the scenes, hey, one of your distributors doing something that could be harmful? What would you suggest people do? If they're seeing this repetitively happen, someone's clearly doing the wrong thing, they're not overly open. And I want to be careful because I don't want to create this situation where people go, oh, I hate that company, so I'm going to start picking on their people. It's more about, and I've had this in my feed, I'm sure you have too, sometimes you just get that one repeat offender that knows better, and you think you're hurting the industry for other people. So what can people do in that situation where they're proactively helping the industry, not creating a case against it?
I think alerting the compliance department of the company that they're representing is the first place, because those are the ones who are really charged with making sure it's cleaned up. And most companies will have a compliance at email, or they'll be using our form through our software. I think if it's really important to you and you feel like, hey, this is really unhelpful to the industry, and I'm trying to protect my business. Usually it's people at the same company because they're seeing a threat come from someone who's making those claims against the company, which is their business. And so it's self-serving to say, hey, I really don't like what this person is doing because it really affects all of us.
Yep.
And it's a good thing for the company to know. And there, like you said, there are some people who will do it, on purpose because it works. Sometimes it does work. If I'm making false claims, there would be people that might believe that and come into my business and then be disappointed and again hurt the industry, even if nothing ever happens. What you don't want is a bunch of people trying and failing. And that's where I think in the 90s we got in a lot of trouble, whereas people were trying to do things and it just wasn't set up to meet the extraordinary claims that were being made for people's lives to be improved. And it hurts the industry, like you say.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, if someone right now is thinking, well, okay, let's get some clarity here. I haven't been able to easily find compliance information from my company, and let's face it, not all companies are necessarily as on this as others. Where is there somewhere that a distributor can find general information that is going to make it clear to them what is okay and what is not okay to say?
It's really interesting how few resources there are for what you can say. Most regulators will tell you what you can't say, but they don't really know what you can say. And then the companies don't know what you really can say. And if they say you can say it and you can't say it, then they've given you that.
Enter Sam and Jonathan.
Right. Sam and Jonathan said
That's
it's
why
fine.
we have businesses, right?
So, I think, every association has some resources. So the DSA Australia may have that.
Yes.
I know the US DSA website has some really good resource materials. The DSSRC, which is the direct selling regulatory council here in the States, they have some resources as well. So there are plenty of out there. Some of them are a bit drier, or they might be something like, I don't know if I can really use this because this is like a legal document. But I'll share a couple links with you maybe after this.
Yeah, that'd be great. If we can put a few things in the show notes. I know we've got some resources as well that we've come across over the years. We actually did do a presentation for the DSA a couple of years ago when they had some really big TGA changes here. So we'll put a bunch of resource links in the chat for you. So, in the show notes for you guys. So if you do want a little bit more information around that. But what if somebody has been listening to this and they go, so I think that some of the things I have been doing on social media are possibly a little questionable. What should they do? Should they go back, delete those posts? Should they get them, contact their company and check them and then possibly delete them? Like, is old content still possibly going to come back to bite them down the track?
It could be. I mean, if you started out and when you knew nothing and you started posting some really bad claims, I would want to correct those. Yeah. And you can go back and edit them. You can delete them. If you have a friendly, progressive compliance department, they can certainly help you. I think at least here in the States, a lot of our clients have really taken the perspective of being a support and a customer service to the field in terms of compliance. It used to be the hammer, like you can't do that. And I think companies get it wrong when they're really tough on their field because many of the times the field just doesn't know what they're doing. So I think it can be counterproductive for in that case.
So if you could give distributors, like 3 tips, 3 like quick, easy tips. And this, I'm really putting you on the spot here, I know, but 3 quick, easy tips to, I guess, little guidelines, I suppose, to help them when it comes to compliance. If you could simplify it down, I know that's hard to do because there's a lot to it, but if you could point out a couple of the common things that they need to look out for, what would they be?
Well, that's 2 different questions. One would be, what tips would I give them, right?
Yeah, let's go with the 3 tips. They're both good questions.
Excellent questions. I just trip myself up.
This is what we call Jonathan Sam Live, and anything can come out of my mouth. So you have to bear with me here, okay? Our listeners know this. This is where the magic happens.
Of course, that's
Sam's
right.
randomness comes into play. So first question, 3 tips.
3 tips. I would say, as I said before, be authentic. Just be authentic. You don't have to fake it. Be who you really are. The people who are in your groups and the people who follow you, if they know who you are, then that comes through. But when you start to promote and sell and market in a way that isn't really authentic and not share, I think that's a big tip. The other is check with your compliance department, assuming that your company hopefully has invested those resources and has people or technology They really know a lot, and in most cases, they just want to help. And it's really nice when they get a call of someone who's just friendly and makes a friendly inquiry, versus someone who's really scared about something they did or mad about some email they got.
Yeah.
So they're just people too, and I think most compliance folks just really are good at their job, and these days they're being hired because they're really good with the field and not because they're really good at hammering things.
Yeah.
So I think checking with compliance and just be honest. If it's something that if you want to share something, even if it's your own experience, understand that it may not be typical. And so what's important, what's honest for me is not honest. Or the claim, or what's good for me is not necessarily good for you. What's worked for me won't necessarily work for you. I think it's really important to keep that in mind.
Yeah.
But beyond that, I think just being yourself and sharing your life and the ways your business and your work has transformed your life and benefited your life and your kids and your family. I think that can be really effective.
Yeah, that's really powerful. And it really comes back to that sharing your story, sharing your journey, right? That authenticity. And then the second part to that question that I threw at you, of course, was, what are some common pitfalls that you would just say, just like steer clear from? Or, one of the things I often say to our members is, when in doubt, leave it out. But, what are some of the common pitfalls that you would say, just like, be really wary of? These are real common mistakes I see people making.
Yeah, I think with income claims, it's any promise or guarantee that anyone's going to make any money, right? If you say you'll make a certain amount or enough to quit your job, that's a big red flag. So anything with income that isn't something that you personally can guarantee is safe to say, because generally income claims are really the ones that get us in trouble, because people might spend the money on starter kit, join an organization, not make the money, get disappointed. And that's what we're trying to prevent. Like, hey, I did this. I think you could do it too.
Yeah.
We'll see. Would you like to learn more about it? But making those promises, I think, is a problem. And then with products, certainly anything curative, the words pain, any disease name, anything like that, cured my headaches. There's a lot of things that seem really innocent, especially if you're on social media where your friends are, right? This helped me cure my headache. This helped me cure my eczema that I had. That's not really a lie if you tell someone that, but it's a problem for when you're marketing a product to accomplish that same goal. It's just a different environment.
What about a little shift to that? For example, if someone were to say, let's just come back to thieves for a second. And, just because you happened to use it earlier, not because we're not playing favoritism here, guys. It's just a product that happened to come up. So if we're talking about thieves oil, and you use it because it helps you with a particular ailment, rather than saying it cures this, it fixes this, it fixed this for me, could you instead say, I'm using it for... So, I use this for my eczema. I use this for, rather than indicating that it cures something, can you just share what you're doing with it?
Yeah, I would always stay away from any disease name or claim, any curative.
Okay. So so is there a way, like if we were to twist that, I'm just using one example here, but if we were to twist that and someone's like, yes, but I use it for my eczema, how can I share that? Like and again, I know it's different between Australia and America, and I'm playing with fire here. I know I really want to just test this theory, because I know that's what's going through people's brains, is they're going, how do I share the benefit of this product right now? And if I want to share my journey and I do use it for my eczema, how do I tell people that? So, what would be a way? Could they take a photograph of them using it on their skin without using the word eczema? Could they? And again, I know I'm like, I get
the problem, Sam.
Yeah, I know. I can hear the TGA right now going. But I know that our listeners are going, how do I share that with people in a way that's not going to get me in trouble, but that does share my journey and how I'm using the product?
That is the number one question. So I mentioned this conference we had, the one that you're going to be at in Salt Lake next year, that we've had several years in a row. And that is our number one session that we do for the company side, is what can you say when you can't say anything? Right. And we still put on the event, we still put on that session because it's never something we can really solve. It's a tough question. So there are some things you can say, like instead of pain, you could say discomfort. There are some things that at least in the US, aren't regulated, those certain words. And it's much easier with product claims because I think the regulators are much more specific on what you can say. Or they have a list of what you can't say and it's not on the list. For income, it's a little different. Like if you have a picture of you in front of your boat in your Ferrari, that's a lifestyle claim. And that's just as important as an income claim here. Like, hey, I'm working this business, check out my Ferrari is illegal here.
Wow.
And
Okay.
and it probably is in other places because a lot of the regulatory regimes follow what the U.S. does. The EU being even more strict in some cases. So it kind of depends on where you are, but I guess the best way to think about this is the net impression that your post will leave. So if you can imagine, I made this post, what's the net impression I'm going to leave that person with? And that impression might be, I think I can cure my eczema with that. That's not a net impression that you want to leave. Because it's not necessarily true for them. I feel like I'm going to make $500,000 a year if I join this company. That's not a good net impression to leave. But the net impression is, she told me an interesting story, and I'm really curious about that product she has. That's a good net impression to leave. Call me for more info. So it is dicey, and the problem is there aren't any really firm guardrails in it. They do tend to change.
And I think one of the words that just pops into my mind here is trust. We talk about trusting. There are things that we trust, and that's another way to share in the journey. And I know when there were some TGA changes a couple of years ago, we were told that even TGA listed products such as sunscreen, for example, in Australia, you could no longer show yourself putting that product on your skin in a photograph. And you couldn't say, I use. This is how strict it got. But what you could say was, I trust this product. And so, sharing a story and sharing that you trust a product and that rather than you making the claims and using the names of diseases, etc., I think it brings to mind one of the key strategies we teach on social media, and that is curiosity and intrigue. The less you say, the more questions they have. The more you say, the less they've got to come to you about anyway. So simply taking a photograph of a product or having it floating around in the background of a story that you share, you don't even, I think one of the most clever strategic types of posts that we've taught over the years has actually been where the product can't be read in the photograph. So you indicate that this particular product is something that you trust and that you utilize, but they can see it's kind of there, but they can't read what it is. So the first thing they're going to ask is, can you tell me what it is, or can you tell me more? And they're like, sure, I'll send you a private message and share with you a few of the details. So they're no longer exposing themselves online, but they're having that private conversation. So, again, I think often less is more. And I would say that's the easiest way, right, to get around a lot of this is just don't say it. Just share a little less, but have people asking the question.
Yeah. I think a lot of people are, especially in this business, are so goal-oriented and they start to become really attached to their goals. And if they haven't reached out that many times, that many days to that many people, they feel like they're going to fail. And you being much more on the training side, probably have more solutions around that. But I think people just get wrapped up in, I have to make all these contacts, and what's the easiest way to do it? I need to get these calls in, and I need to get returns on those. And it just becomes more, it kind of takes over, right? It's running the business versus really sharing what you're doing.
I actually think it's more about share another story. Like don't go hounding people. One of the things that we talk to people a lot about, and we've had lots of podcast episodes about this, is when you do a reach out, first of all, make those reach outs about genuinely building the relationship, not about, hey, I've got a product that you want. I've got a business opportunity for you. I thought of you specifically. And that person is going, bullshit, you did not. You thought of about 50 other people specifically as well. And you've sent that same message to all of them. I feel like a number right now. It's about making it genuine. Hey, I saw that you moved house. I saw your post on Facebook. I just wanted to reach out and say congratulations and how's it going? And make those relationship connections. But I would say even more than the reach outs, if you're going, hey, business is slowing up a bit, or I don't have the leads coming in, it's because you're not sharing enough that's got people wanting to know more. So share
Right.
another little piece of the story. Share it, and we talk a lot about micro stories. And, a story, something that's happened to you, of course, without a claim involved, is something you can share because it's real and it's you, and it's what people want to hear. They don't want to hear here's the product you should buy, here's the business you should join. They want to hear what you did last week, and the challenges that you might be having within your family and how you're handling those, or the new recipe you just learned, but they actually care about what goes on in your world. And I think a lot of people discount that. They think that they're leading with the product and the business because that's what people want to know. Mm-hmm. Actually, they want to know about the business and the product because they trust you and they know you and they care about what you do. Mm-hmm. So lead with that first. You can't really go too wrong with compliance if you're sharing your own journey, right? Providing you're not making claims.
Sure. Always thinking good.
So, Jonathan, I've got some fun questions here I really want to ask you, but just before I get into them, have you got anything else that you would love to leave our listeners with when it comes to compliance, just as we finish up?
Yeah, I think it's what I had said earlier, which is be authentic, leave folks with the impression that's correct, not the one that you believe true for yourself, and have fun. It's the more fun you have, like you were just talking a minute ago about the leading with a story. No one wants, especially with social media these days, the algos will push you out. No one wants to look at anything product-wise. If you're on Instagram, you have about a millisecond to get someone's attention.
Yeah.
And if that is a picture of a product, or you're hawking something, or even sponsored ads, we're all moving through really fast. It's just really difficult to connect there. And I don't think it's really a winning strategy. The things you were talking about, what's interesting about you, and then using that to share an opportunity or share a product that you're really excited about. I think that's really the way to go.
Yeah, absolutely. And if anyone wants to find out a little bit more about Field Watch, or they want to know a little bit more about your business, how can they get in touch with you guys? How can they find out more about you?
Well, the name of my firm is Momentum Factor, and the website is Momo Factor, MOMO Factor.
Which I love. It's like Phone Factor, but
right. It's a Momo Factor. It's a momentum,
Yeah, I love it.
And that's where all of our stuff is. And Field Watch has its own page there as well. We have other products and services for direct selling companies that we sell. We don't really market to the field, but the companies do come to us.
And we do have a number of companies that love to listen into this podcast as well. And sometimes, Field that like to recommend things to their companies that they heard about on this podcast. So look, guys, Field Watch is obviously an amazing tool. So, check that out. And it's a great way to, I guess, take compliance, I would have said, into a much simpler process where it really is process-driven, platform-driven, so educating people a little bit more, catching things before they become too big a problem. So well worth looking at for sure, and protecting the industry, and that's a really big thing, right?
Thank you. Yeah, we're pretty proud of that fact.
Yeah. And so here's my fun questions. You ready?
All right, fun questions.
All right. First one is, what's your favorite book for us to add to our Accelerator book list, Jonathan?
Your Accelerator book list is for folks to learn business?
Well, it's actually like an all-encompassing book list. We have it. Look, yes, it's got business books in there, but we've also got personal development. We've got novels. We've got just fun reads. So bit of everything.
Well, a recent one I read was The Lean Startup, and that's kind of more for like software firms like ours, maybe.
Yep.
But how to be really hyper efficient in what you do when you're building a company, and so all about innovative practices and things like that.
Awesome.
I enjoy that kind of stuff, but I'm kind of a nerd, so.
That's right. I know we've definitely got some nerds in our. All right. If you could have a superpower, any superpower, what would it be and why?
What would it be? Cloning, maybe.
Cloning.
I could clone myself. My kids may object to that, but.
So would this be for the purpose of being in multiple locations
multiple places at once? Maybe that's some sort of transporting thing. But I think cloning is better because there's just more of me. I would like to hang out with a couple of me's. That wouldn't be so bad.
This is my favorite question, I think, because I always get surprised. Like, I've not had that response yet. That's a great one. I've seriously had some responses here that have had my jaw hit the floor. I'm like, would you really do that? But cloning, I get it. Okay, I get it. Being in multiple places at once, it's kind of like being able to stop time, right?
Sure.
A
Oh,
little.
that'd be cool. Yeah, that'd be cool.
I feel like that might be one of mine. Okay, what's your favorite quote?
My favorite quote. Well, I have my own quote. I just told my kids the other day because my daughter was telling me that she didn't want to go somewhere that I thought she should go, and she was just being lazy. She doesn't want to get out of bed and go. Right? It was early in the morning, and and I always tell them, if you don't go, you don't know.
Well, I like that. That's
what
really
are you
true.
missing out on? You know, you're going to be here. You're not going to miss anything. And you go there, you may have that one connection or that one person or that one interesting tidbit that you use the rest of your life. And I found that true throughout my life. So that's a good one.
Yeah. I love that. Does it help them get out of bed?
No.
All right. It's worth the shot though, right?
It's worth the shot.
And last question is, if you could go back in one time and you could say one thing to your past self, what would that be?
I think that I would tell my past self that life gets linearly better every year.
Wow.
So you'll have some dips, but life gets, but for me, I'm telling my earlier self, your life will continue to get better as you get older.
Yeah.
I think that would have been comforting to me back then.
Yeah, I think that would be comforting at any point in life.
My clones as well.
Yeah. Tell your clones too. Yeah. Don't leave them out of the loop. I love it. Oh, it's been so great chatting with you, Jonathan. I really appreciate you and everything that you do for this industry. And I know the people that you work with would say the same. Compliance can be a really challenging topic, and it can feel sometimes like it's all the don'ts. But the beauty of it is it does protect our industry. And most importantly, it keeps what we do above board. And you can know that, hey, you know what, with the companies putting so much energy and emphasis in doing this the right way, they're making sure that, we're building an industry that's going to last many, many, many years to come. So thank you for everything that you do. And thanks for joining us today. I know you're flat out busy. You guys have got a new conference coming up and it's late there for you. So thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate you.
No, thank you, Sam. I really appreciate what you do for the industry as well. It's you're a real champion, and thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, such an honor. And of course, thanks, to our beautiful listeners for tuning in again today. Remember, like always, please take one thing that you can take from this episode, something that has stood out or resonated with you, and implement that in your business. If you take away one thing each week and you just make one 2 millimeter shift, trajectory in your business will be great. So thank you again so much for tuning in. Go and implement something. And we look forward to seeing you all on the podcast again next week. Bye for now. Thank you for joining us in this episode of the Direct Selling Accelerator podcast. If you love listening and you found that this was helpful for your direct selling business, please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can also check out the recommended video that's popped up on your screen right here. I look forward to seeing you again next time. Bye for now.